Hi, my name is Ryan Westberry. I'm with the Collier Science Department as a TSA and your support for science in secondary schools. What I'm going to talk to you today about is the claim evidence reasoning, otherwise known as C.E.R. If you haven't heard of C.E.R. yet, I'd be very surprised because there's been a big push for this last year. It stands for claim evidence and reasoning. The main focus of this, what we want to do, is to give students a prompt, have them decide on a claim, choose their evidence, and then support that evidence with their reasoning. If we take a look up here, this is a blank claims evidence reasoning sheet where they might use some data or observations, make their claim here, supply some evidence. So this is a mock-up sheet so they can put their ideas on this paper and then put that into paragraph form. Another example of a C.E.R. might come from a graph or data chart like this, where they're given a graph and basic observations. What can they observe about this graph? And as it shows here, the claim is, what does this graph show? Evidence here and reasoning. Now, I want to point out here that one of the tenets that I found that is a misconception about C.E.R. is there's a right or a wrong answer. Sometimes there's a right answer, but most of the time with the C.E.R., we want to give the students freedom to write without penalty, because the push for writing and the push for being comfortable with writing is writing without penalty and having that dissection of their reasoning. So if we can just look at where the students are making their reasoning misconceptions or their evidence misconceptions, we can tweak how they're thinking about their claim and making that process. Because the process of science is really about being a critical thinker and observing and coming up with evidence to support that. So just to show you a few examples of a C.E.R., these are very difficult for most adults to answer. What would happen if we couldn't predict the weather? That's a basic 6th grade prompt where we would say, what do you think would happen? Now, a lot of students are going to have a lot of blank time. What would happen? Then they really need to internalize that and come up with some reasoning, maybe supply some anecdotal evidence like, we wouldn't know a hurricane was coming, and that would be really bad, and really just coming through with that process. Another one, why is there more wind farming in the middle states than the ocean-bordered states? Now, considering we live near the ocean and we find lots of breeze, why don't we have more breeze or wind farming here than we do in the middle of the country? This would be a good introductory C.E.R. before we even get into the content of the global wind patterns, where they would actually learn the content. So they're going to be asked to sort of think about it and then move into it. Another one being, the Earth would be better with more or less atmosphere. How do you even answer that? That would be really just a thought-provoking question to see what they would come up with. If it would be too thick, what would be the result? If it were too thin, what would be the result? And just basic understandings of their reasoning there. Last one is, the Earth is cooling and will stop soon. Another one, without supplying them even a reading material or prior knowledge, what can they come up with about that and move on? The next level of C.E.R. is, of course, supplying them with an article to read or even a couple of paragraphs to base their evidence and cite evidence from there. But our basic C.E.R. is really just asking a question, which even might be a startup that you use now, and rolling that into something with more of a substantial framework, and that is a C.E.R. Thank you.